tell my younger self as far as writing stuff, because a lot of this stuff is organic. You learn it as you go.
It's strange. It's nothing I ever expected.
I want to tell my stories by eliciting emotion in my audience.
So it's an organic process. They sort of layer on top of each other. Each one makes the next layer more obvious to me.
This whole thing could not have gone any smoother.
I usually say squat only in groups of 3. I like to batch it, like squat, squat, squat.
Look, guys, this one's not going to be like normal. It's just not.
Welcome to the Writer's Journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the mellifluous Kaden Williams.
There's a big difference. It's like, are you talking or are you doing? What's happening here?
We still have all the pets that think, oh, it's time to eat. It doesn't matter if it's 4 a.m.
My name is Walt, and this is Coffee and Concepts on Keystroke Medium.
Yeah, that is the longest video intro.
That is
all of them were there except me. Like no, like I'm not even. Oh shoot, we're on the air.
Look, I'm surprised I even got that part right. I was like looking at the buttons before everybody joined, and I was like, "Is this how we do this?" I can't remember. Welcome to another episode of Live on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Chuck Manley, Scoot Mooney, and Steve Beaulieu. Welcome everybody in the live chat. Hello. What we haven't done in a really long time is guess who? Trucker Charlie gets the Keystroke Medium golf clap of appreciation. Thank you, Trucker. Hope everything is good on the road. Corey, what's up? Hey, Rick. Tom is in the house. Bard, Luke, what's up, buddy? Who else is in here?
Dean Floyd.
Dean, the good old Dean. Yes. Just another episode, Rick said. Yeah, you know.
It's a lot of action and shenanigans in the live chat. Very good stuff there. Trying to skim through it, but it's just too much.
It's definitely been a while since we've done one of these.
I gotta say, all of our offices look nicer than all of the videos that we see, except Scott. Scott's just in his bedroom by his bed. He's showing us where the action happens.
Why are you bragging about your office?
On his birthday. That's where the action happens on his birthday.
Yeah,
exactly.
Every other year.
every other birthday.
Also, where I spend most of my time when I'm in the doghouse. So just really.
At least you got yours out there.
Rhett Bruno's even watching on Facebook. Hello.
Yeah,
nobody said we were going to have a whole half episode of talking shit on Rhett, but apparently we can't do that now.
Can't do that. Oh God, he's got the toys and everything.
Oh Lord,
what is going on in Scott's corner?
Well, that was the last birthday.
Oh yeah. Jake Clifton Slater's here. What's up, man? Keystroke Medium was a big part of my path to being a writer. Thank you. Well, Jay, we appreciate you. Rhett says he'll leave. Don't leave, Rhett. We'll talk shit while you're here. Jay, we love you having here, especially with your patented bowl of ice cream, which it might be a little early for that. Then again, it might not be.
Ice cream? Are you kidding me?
All right, so here's the big question. What are we talking about? What are we doing? What are we doing?
What do we ever talk about?
Decorations. I think
nothing and everything.
Man, those of you who heard that, stick around for nothing.
Yeah, nothing and everything. No.
I guess we should start with what the hell have we been up to for all this time?
Well, I was going to say it's been, I don't know when we did the last one of these. I'm pretty sure we did a couple at the beginning of the year, and then
this may be the first and last of 2023.
Yeah, I can't remember. We've been on hiatus for a really, really, really long time.
You've done some stuff with Lauren, haven't you?
Yeah, Lauren and Ken and I have been doing some book tubing on the dragon bone chair.
God, that sounds like a lot of naughty words.
Tad will.
I know. There's a lot of dragon boning going on.
Tubing and dragon boning. I don't even know. That massager in play.
I was gonna say that's
got a personal massage device ready to go.
You're giving
Scott's
Keith
starting
a whole different meaning there, buddy.
I feel like Chuck should start. Chuck, what have you been up to?
Oh my gosh. Since the last show, just been working and had a lot of personal shit I had to deal with. I quit writing for a while, but I'm back at it. And just working at Amazon. I'm in the IT department now, and dealing with the family and all that. Just kept me busy. What about you, Scott?
No, Scott.
Oh well, I'm just tickled that I don't know if this. Hopefully, the screen displays the same as everybody else's, but I put my microphone behind the microphone. And then
you have notoriously had microphone problems, so I'm glad to hear that we can hear you well.
Yeah. Well, it is facing the right direction. First year direction, but it's just me. So I guess since the last time we were here, I retired and I'm writing full time. Grinding away on books like always, and trying to not let my day get taken up by all the chores and stuff, because everybody who becomes an entrepreneur knows once you have the ability to set your own schedule, you're available to do all the things.
Yeah.
My wife and kids and everybody has been really good about it, but I'm kind of a pleaser. So they're like, hey, you want to do that? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Even if it's not maybe the best call every time. So yeah, not a lot of, it implies that I started playing my instruments again, but I haven't practiced for a while either. So just same old stuff for me. You basically right where I left off before, writing all the time, trying to get those words.
Didn't I see a post on Scott Moon where you broke 1 million this year?
I broke 1 million words this year. I should get 1,100,000 or more by the end of this year.
That's outstanding, man.
That's not too shabby.
At least half of those are usable too, I'm sure.
I know. I'm talking about the unusual one. I haven't been putting much effort into decorating my office. That's obviously pretty.
Yeah, you need to up your game a little bit. My office is just like a tornado has gone through, and you can see off over here is my work desk, and it's trashed. And
don't feel bad, man. Before we went on, I just went and cleaned all the shit that was in the camera angle and shoved it off out of frame.
Yeah,
like there's a pile of stuff right here in front of me. You're good. You're good.
Okay, cool. I keep telling myself I need to take a day and like clean and organize the thing, and then I never do. Steve, what about you, man? I mean, I know what you've been up to this year, but other than screwing off and making me do all the work, what have you been up to?
I'm mostly screwing off, making you do all the work.
Indeed.
It's been a long year. Like, it's been good, right? Athon has been great. We've entered into the comic book market in a pretty big way, and so there's been a lot of behind the scenes stuff, getting these projects prepped and ready. We had a killer year in terms of releases and books. And as far as my own writing, I don't know, I did about 6 or 7 books this year. And I took my 13 books that I had contracted for the last 2 years or so, and I'm down to, I think, 2 of those books. And so that feels really good. I should have one of those done by the end of the year. And then Black Badge book 3 is all that's left before I can say that I have no more actual like committed projects. And so, yeah, that feels great. And then there's, family life has been, I got 2 young kids and a wife that's been dealing with the Lyme disease and chronic Lyme disease and all that. So there's just been a whole lot of chaos, but like, I don't know. I'm good. I could take all the bad and just kind of go, I always say woeful, wonderful, tracks running parallel. Great things happen, bad things happen, and you just got to deal with them both as they come. So, yeah.
I have had a really good year. It's now the a year and a half I've been with Aethon now since last August or August of 2022. Grateful for that and for you and doing all that work. The role has expanded pretty significantly over the past several months, and it's been good work though. And the writing is slowly on the uptick. I am finishing a book. It's actually my first book that I ever wrote and published, Second Star. I'm finishing that as an audio only book deal, and that's super close to being done. The trilogy that I started at the beginning of this year, Weaponized, the second book is halfway done, and then I just have to finish the third, and then all my contracted commitments will be over, and basically I'll be starting from a blank check again, hopefully pretty soon after the first of the year. But luckily, the work is kind of stabilizing with Aethon, and I can kind of get the words that I need to get and pump those out. And it's been a learning curve the last couple of years, trying to get everything situated and where I want it to be at. I want to do more of these shows. I really do want to get back in kind of the habit of doing the Keystroke show and really connecting with all of our viewers and listeners. It's been a while. We really scaled back a lot in the last couple of years. We're probably going to do a little bit more scaling back in the next year.
I like to call it focusing.
Yeah, focusing. Hey, what's up, Guy? Been a while.
His guy wearing pants. He promised he would wear pants.
Oh, well, it's not technically a requirement for watching the show, but it's definitely a plus. So yeah, we're definitely gonna, I think, try to make more of an effort to do these shows in the coming year. I miss them. Chuck misses them. I know Scott does. Steve doesn't. But
I'm joking.
We definitely want to try to reconnect with our audience and kind of our roots, and now after definitely Scott now being full-time for the year and myself doing it for a couple of years now, we have some perspectives on that we'd like to talk about and share and maybe get into more depth in some other episodes. Just some different takes on the full-time.
Well, there's a lot going on right now with people and a lot of changes in people's attitudes towards writing and in the writing industry. And I think we have stuff to say that can be helpful and hopefully reassuring, because it seems like the sky is always falling for writers, and maybe we can, get through that together by.
I feel like that's a great conversation to have today, because I've been having some conversations recently with authors that just, there's certain conventions that we all go to where the information presented makes you feel as if this is an easier job than it really is. That it's easier to be full-time, that it's easier to make a full-time living, that it's easier to, write. We hear guys like Scott Moon saying, I wrote 1,100 or 1.1 million words this year. And, Rick Partlow has written, 3,700 books this
trillion.
Year. All the books.
I was talking to an author today. We had a sci-fi release this past week. And, without getting into the rankings and the numbers, he was like, in the top 20 of his genres. And there was a little bit of disappointment in the conversation that we were having. And I said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to look at the top 20 books.
Yeah.
Guys that have been doing this for a decade.
Yeah.
You've got guys who are massive sellers, and then you, right? Like we've got this we're looking at the big names. We're constantly looking at the big names. And he came to me and he said, I've been told that, top 200 rank is the sweet spot. And I said, yeah, for guys who have been doing this, like this is a debut for you. Top 200 for a debut science fiction author is an insane expectation.
When you have to I didn't even break I remember when breaking the top 50,000 made me super happy. That was a really good thing. And you have to remember that, this information is a little bit older, but it's like 3,000 or 4,000 books a day are published.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you get anywhere in the top, 10,000, top 20,000, even, in Amazon, then you are probably doing extremely well. You're doing better than literally millions of other people.
Yeah, there's a statistic here, right? I told him, I said, you have sold better already, sold more books already than 98% of the books that are ever released. The actual statistic is the number of books that sell a copy a day is, let me say it this way, 99% of all books released do not sell a copy a day.
Yeah.
I believe that.
The average number of books sold from a trad pub author is 14 copies, period. Total.
And so that's how many friends they had that would buy the book.
Yeah. So when we look at books that sold, 400 copies day one, you have just outsold everybody.
Yeah. Well, before the indie revolution, I think the statistic was that most books earned $500 in their lifetime.
Yep.
On average.
Rick Partlow made some really great points one time. He was talking about, authors of old, however long you want to go back, right? But historically, authors have always had second jobs. They've always.
Yeah.
Tolkien was a professor. You've got all of these tremendous authors that we look at now as maybe they were full-time. They weren't full-time. That's why it took Tolkien decades to write his books. And then we look at a book that we wrote in 3 months, which there's nothing wrong with writing a book in 3 months. Do not misunderstand me. But if you wrote a book in 3 months and you sold 5,000 copies, 2,000 copies, you're ahead of the game, man.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. People are doing a lot better than they think. They got to give themselves some credit. But there's a lot going on, and it's getting, I don't know what happened for me, but suddenly on my Facebook feed, probably 80% of my Facebook feed is ads for authors or ads for new books. And I've never seen that before.
Yeah, there's so many authors out there that no one's ever heard of, and that's great. That's fine.
I feel like somebody just sold a new Facebook marketing course, and now everybody is putting their books and targeting me because I like science fiction and I have a e-reader. And so,
yeah, when you could publish a book instantaneously, you've got to have that. You've got to have some realistic expectations as to of the 5,000 books that have been put out over the past 2 or 3 days, the 20,000 books that came out this week, and then the hundreds, if not thousands, of books that are bestsellers currently. How am I going to break into that? There's just got to be, and of course with the lit RPG world, it's so quote easy. Especially when you're with a publisher that has success in that market, it looks easy. Yeah. And now these guys are like, I didn't get into the top 10 on all of Amazon. I'm only 14. And you're like, what in the world are we doing here?
Yeah.
Well, and Tom has a good point. He said his book never came close to earning out. It has good reviews, but it's hard to stay motivated under those circumstances. And I definitely agree with you. It's hard to stay motivated under those circumstances, but I can't think of a single one of my audiobooks that have earned out. Not a single one.
Question. So earned out. What do you mean, Tom? What was there an advance involved, right? Because the advance, that is your money. Take it and run, right? A publisher gives you X amount of money. You got paid for the job. Now we write the next book. And if you don't earn out, it doesn't matter. That's what I was going to say. All my audio money, I consider all money from audio
especially if it's an advance as like a kind of a bonus, you know, and you make the majority of your money through ebook. Most of us do. And usually the way audio deals work, unless you do something like through Aethon Audio or ACX, the money that you make from your advance is pretty much the only money you're going to make.
Tom, Rick said Tom might have meant that he paid for the audiobook himself. Discussion.
Yeah.
There was a long period of time where people really thought like audio was, you know, the way to make money, when in reality, audio is the hardest possible avenue to make money in. And so you spend, you know, $2,000, $4,000, $5,000 per book on a narrator, especially by the time you get to book 3. And often with indies, we're like, I've got a 9-book series and I've got to have them all in audio.
Well, audio, yeah, the production cost in audio is higher. For me, it seems like it's really hard to advertise audio for some reason. And
because it's one credit, man. That's all everyone has.
Yeah. And you don't normally get any information back from like I've had some different audio publishers, and I said, well, I'm going to run ads. Can you give me some metrics to see if my ads are effective? And they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of going blind. The thing is with audio, I believe that if it does work out for you, it feels like the revenue is stabler. It lasts longer because there's a higher barrier to entry. Like an ebook, you can publish an ebook and rank really high, and then it falls off really quick. Whereas an audiobook seemed to be stickier, but that's because not everybody can do one.
It's because it's expensive, right? And that gets into sort of the AI narration, which is, you know, we just put out this petition for signing
I'll link it
against AI. And that's the reason why we are so strongly against this idea, because there's often a good reason why ebooks don't have audio. And that's because the people that are willing to spend the money, Aethon Books, Podium Audio, whoever it is, we're smart enough to realize when your book is going to do well in audio.
Right.
And so like it's 2023, and over the past 4 or 5 years, there's been this overwhelming every book should have audio concept, but like that's stupid. It's like saying every book should have a movie. It's insane, right? Like, I'm going to spend $20 to produce your series on audio. Is anyone going to make $20,000 back?
That's pretty high bar, to be honest.
Well, I think one of the things, and I linked our Aethon anti-AI initiative. We call it a petition. It's not really a petition. I mean, it is. But you put your name on there and you sign it. We're running that in conjunction with a couple audio companies to really just voice our opinion about the AI narration that Amazon has started. So if you're interested in something like that and you want to lend your support our way, just click that link in the live chat there, and it takes like 3 seconds to fill out. It's not a big thing.
So anyway, without being overly negative about the industry, it is still possible, but like I think we just have to temper our expectations.
Well, 10 years ago it was the Wild West, and now you got to actually you actually got to treat it like a business, be like a professional. And so it is harder, I think, than in the, being an early adopter had its advantages, obviously, and those types of things. While we're on that subject, there's other things we can talk about too. And since we have a great visual representation of what I'm about to say, like if you look at my office, it kind of looks, that's kind of like my social life too, because, I went full time and this is where I spend most of my time. I do stuff with the family, obviously. But so beyond just making money and getting an audiobook and all those things, as a writer, things you got to worry about is like, okay, where's my sense of community? Where's,
Amen.
What makes me happy? What gets me through the day? And so that's one of the reasons I want to get back to doing the show, is because Keystroke Medium's single biggest success, I think, over the years has been the community that we were able to create. And there's professional and just personal benefits. All of my professional success comes from people I met through this show. And then most of my, or a good part of my happiness too, comes from the people I know on the show.
Oh, I can tell you personally that this is my writing connection, and it has been for many years. I mean, the time that I've been away from it, I don't think I've talked writing with anybody, and that was part of the stuff that I had to deal with a while back. Was I was feeling separated, And I think that the sense of community is something that you really can't overstress the value of it. I mean, just look at the comments and the chat and everything. You know, we've created a real group of people here that have genuine fondness for each other.
I was worried that we'd be like crickets because we've been gone for so long. And been
well, that's why I kept saying we need to let people know we're doing this.
Yeah. And it looks like everybody's back and causing a ruckus. So
I wanna just, because Tom responded with something, and I know we're off this subject.
Oh no, go for it.
Go for it.
So I spent $4,000 to have it produced, haven't sold 100 copies. If you sold 100 copies, you've outsold most audiobooks on the planet. Like, not that you said you haven't sold 100 copies, but maybe it's 80, maybe it's 50. Like, that's actually still phenomenal. Reason being, audiobooks are expensive for listeners to buy. They're either $14.99 for a credit or the cash price, or maybe they're lucky enough to get it on WhisperSync. But generally the WhisperSync thing, right? Like, we won't even get into all the WhisperSync thing, but could you imagine a book you've never really heard of, which, you know, in many ways is all of us, right? Like Rick Partlow, I use him as an example because he's in there. Rick's huge. Scott's got some huge projects. Like, we've got huge names that no one's ever heard of.
Mm-hmm.
That all is Shirtaloon. Do you know how stupid I sound asking somebody if they've ever heard of Shirtaloon with an additional reader? The dude hits #1 on Amazon, but the world at large has no idea who he is.
Right.
Well, it's interesting, and you know, that brings up a good point about Shirtaloon and where we're at today in our industry and kind of in our circles is you know, talking about tempering expectations and not selling the way you want to sell and hoping you sell like so and so. There's a lot of people out there that sell bananas and no one knows who they are. You know, at Athon we publish a dozen authors that make, you know, dump trucks full of money and no one knows who they are. And you know, we have authors that make a living, a good living publishing, and no one knows who they are. And I think a lot of the swing now for people getting into it is they look at the kind of the outliers, and you look at, you know, say like a Brandon Sanderson who pulled $43 million on Kickstarter and everybody wanted to do a Kickstarter, or you look at I you know, I can't think of any of the indie authors that are huge right now, but they compare themselves to those authors instead of looking at what is the average or what is just a good income as a writer. And one of the things that I've kind of taken to heart this year and last year as well is after going full time, I had a couple of projects that didn't go as correctly or well as I thought they were going to, and kind of had to meter my expectations there. But even in the series that did do well for me, didn't sell bananas. And so now still writing, I actually enjoy having a job that I can make money at without having to stress about selling a book. I still want to sell a book. I still love writing. And I, you know, if somebody wanted to give me $1 million for one of my books, I wouldn't tell them no. But having the option, you know, having the ability to write what I want to write, how I want to write it, in the time it takes me to write it, while working is a lot less stressful than trying to, because I'm not, you know, Rick and Scott are super fast writers. You know, they pump out books and books. There's writers out, and they're good books. You know, there's writers out there that can do a book in a month or a book in a month and a half. I can't do that. And I tried to do it for the first, you know, year that I was full time. Couldn't do it. And started to really doubt myself and my skills, and if this was something that I could really do realistically. And finally was able to come to the realization that being a full-time writer is a really nice goal, But is it necessary? And is it necessary to be a full-time writer to have a success and to have a good time? I think a lot of people in our community, especially with the kind of 20 books community, where they're talking about, I'm going to take writer advice from someone who doesn't write full time. Why are you discounting the writers that don't write full time?
The advice is either good advice or it's not good advice. And
Right.
I think it's something that should get more attention, that perhaps instead of seeking to write full time, you should seek a job or situation that's compatible with your passion.
For sure.
So then you can do your passion on your own terms. You make extra money. It's good. But maybe that means finding the right job that supports it. Like obviously, if you're on call out all the time and working nights and, you're doing a dangerous job where it takes all of your attention, that might not be the perfect fit. But there are lots of jobs that go really well with writing. Like being a teacher is a great job because you could, in theory, write in the summers. That was my original plan, but I had a D in algebra, and even though my GPA was like a 3.3, since I had a D, they wouldn't let me into the teaching program. Although they would allow me into graduate school to become a school psychologist, which is what I started doing, but I couldn't be a teacher. And my plan had been to teach and then write during the summers. That's not a bad option. If you
Bard, really quickly, Bard asked, how did you get there, Josh? And I'm assuming he's meaning becoming a full-time author. And I went full-time right at the beginning of 2019. And I was writing years before that. Everybody that watches the show knows we've been writing for years and years. 2017 is when my rise started. I got really good handouts from Richard Fox. I got in with the Galaxy's Edge crowd and wrote a couple of books there. Got in with Athon right at the very beginning, and was able to replace my cop salary. And that's when I decided to go full time. The problem is, like I think everybody here will attest to, is you can have a really good year, and then the very next year you will tank, and there's absolutely no way to account for that. You could write a great book and a great series, and it does phenomenally well. And you write another great book in another great series, and for whatever reason, that book or that series doesn't sell, and you're right down at the bottom again. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad writer. It just means that maybe that book didn't resonate with readers or didn't find the right crowd,
or you released on the same day as somebody huge and it killed you.
100%.
So many authors that made $500,000, $800,000 on a series, and then they can't sell books after that to save their life. And we are constantly encouraging authors to not go full time because the stress. Now, of course, like Scott said, there's like certain jobs that work well with the passion to write books, and then there's certain jobs that don't. Some of them you can write a book a year, some of them you can write 3 books a year, some of them you can't write at all, right? But like if you've got a decent job where you've got benefits, because remember, you don't get benefits from being an author. Your benefits are paying $4,000 to the friggin' insurance company a month, and to keep your family alive, and
you have to pay your own Social Security tax and a bunch of other.
You got to do all of it, and it's very stressful. I mean, I speak from a place of extreme privilege. I get that, but I want to just say that, like, I know a lot of authors going through these problems, and oftentimes, if they had heeded the advice, don't quit that $100,000 a year job where you have benefits and your family has security because you made $100,000 a year this year.
Right.
Because you've got to, like Josh said, you've got to keep up that production. You constantly keeping up the production. And then what happens when you just spent 6 months writing a series that flops?
Mm-hmm.
And then the money from your last series, maybe it didn't dry up, but it's not what it used to be. And now your lifestyle has been built upon the money you were making for that series, and your new series doesn't hold up, and you can't keep doing that. It's just this constant battle to keep up with what you've previously done.
So I started to have really good financial success, and I did not quit my job, I continued to write and tried to write on that same pace for about 4 years after I started to go, where in theory, I probably could have pulled the plug. There was a couple of things, like I was able to get to retirement age, so I could take a partial retirement. And that doesn't, it's very small, let's be honest, but that does pay my health insurance. So I have health insurance. And for my family, I have a large family. But I was terrified of going full time, because there is a phenomenon, might be it's a whole own show, but of people who go full time, and you think you're going to be 5 times as productive when you go full time, but that is almost always not true.
Yeah.
Most people, it cuts your productivity in half. I don't know why. It's just the way the stars move. So thinking if I just had more time to write, I would magically write more is not.
Well, I think a lot of people have the if I can just go full time mentality, and they think, well, once I go full time,
it'll be easier.
I've arrived. I can relax now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the absolute opposite mindset that you need to have if you're going to try and pay your bills like
the
that.
fire under your butt to write books because you want to go full time is actually what allows you to go full time. And then once you're full time, Scott said it earlier, being a guy that works at home, it took me many, many years to get to a place where I've got an office in my house that's separate from my house enough that people forget I'm here.
Mm-hmm. I wish I had that.
First couple of years, I was in my living room. My TV was right next to me, and my young kids were playing right behind me. I had one room in the house that would work, and everyone was in it all the time. Yeah. I did the WeWork thing where, I rented out an office kind of thing. That didn't work for me. And then we finally got another house, but my room was like right next door to the kids' room. So like I was still alive and present all the time. And of course, until you're generating enough income, this isn't true for everybody, but like my wife didn't quite get what I was doing. She appreciated what I was doing, but she didn't quite get it. And so like, I think we were talking about before we went on air, there's the, Steve's home, maybe he can go run Oliver to the dentist because, I've got this, and this to do. And oftentimes, I've got to write is not.
It takes a while to get
like a sufficient answer.
Yeah. And that's an important thing you need to do. In my early days, I actually assumed people wanted me to come. I felt guilty for being here writing. And so I was deciding that they were mad that I was in my office writing without asking them if they were. But when I actually had the conversation, like, no, go write and stuff. But you're absolutely correct, though, is it takes a while for people to understand. They might, in theory, understand that you're making a living from your writing. It doesn't really feel like you're doing anything. They look at you and you're just hanging out on the computer. You could be playing a video game for all they know. And it is easy to get all the chores and honey-do lists dumped on you.
Well, and sometimes that's an easy out, right? If you're having a bad day or a bad week writing and you're fighting that resistance, and your wife or significant other comes and says, hey, can you help me move this furniture, do this or that, then you're like, yes, I don't want to write anyway. And you get up and you go that, and then you don't ever finish. We were talking about insurance and all that stuff, and insurance is, if you don't have that set up in place and good to go, then going full time. When I went full time, my goal was to make $60,000 a year, and that was just my police salary. And a lot of people told me you can make way more than that, and you should set your goals higher. And I said, no, my goal is 60. If I make more than that, that's fantastic. And I really was really careful to meter those expectations. But then you talk about going full time and making $100,000 a year or whatever. Are you really making the 100,000, or are you making 50 and half of that is going to insurance? And you've got to really
or Facebook ads.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to look at the whole thing, and maybe you would be in a better position.
Yeah, are you netting $60,000?
100%. There's authors out there. I'm not going to name his name. But they put together a financial thing, and they showed all their financials and showed how much money they were making and how much money they were spending. And they made, from this certain series or whatever, they made about $100,000. But they spent like $54,000 to get to that $100,000. So it wasn't that they were netting six figures. They were only bringing in 50, and they spent 100 to get to that. And I think a lot of the misnomer
They spent a lot of
authors
time.
that do really well, and they're like, I'm a 6-figure author or I'm a 7-figure author. Yes, that might be true. You might actually have $600,000 or $100,000 in sales or $1 million in sales, but that's not what you're bringing home. That's you're showing that as income, but you're really only making maybe half of that or a quarter of that, or depending on how your business is set up.
All of that comes with a time cost too. So if you're spending $50,000 a year on ads, you're spending a lot of time learning how to do ads, posting the ads, making the ad copy, doing the ad images and stuff like that.
That's why there's a great argument for publishers, right? We
absolutely.
We spoke to the new the guy that's going to be running what used to be called 20 Books. We had a meeting with him yesterday, and one of the questions we asked was like, is there going to be an avenue for other methods of publication other than self-publishing? Because for so long, 20 Books was self-publishing, heaven. And so because of that, those of us who provide opportunities for authors who don't want to be authorpreneurs kind of got snubbed.
Yeah.
And he was all for it. He's like, I want there to be avenues for every option in publishing available at Author Nation. And we were excited about that. Not because we need new authors. Reality is we don't. We're good. Like we don't need more.
Rick Barlow writes 600 books a year. What do you need?
Yeah.
Our submissions are always open, but at the same time, like I told him, I'm not going to 20 Books to sign authors. What I'm asking you though is there an opportunity to present to those who are coming the idea that there are other options? You don't have to learn Facebook ads. You don't have to learn AMS, because those things are a bitch to learn.
Yeah,
they change all the time.
Constantly changing. One of the things that I thought when I was starting in writing was that I knew all these guys, right? The Nick Coles, the Jason Anspachs, the Richard Foxes. I knew all these guys that are awesome, amazing guys. But I'm like, if I could release a book and they share my book, people are going to buy it. Nobody buys books,
right?
Because an author shares it to their profile.
No.
Yeah.
Almost zero. So like, the networking is helpful in a lot of ways, but like it's not a success tool.
The newsletter swap is definitely something I'd like to see go away, because I don't think it works for most people, and I think it also makes indie authors look bad, because you got people that are getting just spammed because I know let's say I know 50 science fiction authors. They all share the same books. So I'm signing up for all the newsletters. I get the same book in my email 50 times, and it's just aggravating.
I mean, it definitely stopped working as much. It's definitely still a tool that helps get your book visible and things like that. But like at the same time, you're right. Like it's an overwhelming number of times you see the same book, and almost I'm that guy that if I already bought the book, I'm like, do I have to see this again?
Yeah.
Like when you get an ad on Facebook for something you just bought, I'm like, don't you know?
Well, and they signed up for your newsletter. They can go on Amazon and find other people's books. Generally, when I sign, I'm interested in that person. I don't really need to know. And so like I will share books sometimes on my newsletter. I don't do my newsletter a lot, but I have to like either be a book that I read and really liked, or be a writer that I really support and I've read enough to make a thing. But I get the most random collection, and I can tell when there's been a big push, because I'll get like 50 requests to do newsletter swaps. And I'm like, I even if I wanted to say yes, I can't put 50 books in my newsletter. That's spam.
Well, isn't it interesting too, just how quickly, I mean, it changes every 6 months, the meta of what we do. It changes and adjusts, and algorithms change and best practices change, and that's, I think, kind of a frustrating thing as an authorpreneur to have to adjust and change course and drastically do different things, and now you're learning all these other things instead of improving as a writer. And we've said all these I don't know, negative things about writing or writing full time, but I will say that I think even with all the craziness and nonsense going on right now with, AI and even just authors putting out ridiculously just blah books all the time, there's no better time to write the book that you want to write and to figure out how you want to put it out there, whether you want to self-pub, which is still, self-pubbing is still a viable option. It might not be right for everyone, and I think
ask your doctor if it's right.
Yeah, right. I think though that especially right now, there's Athon, there's a couple other really good hybrid publishers that do great work that aren't taking advantage of authors. There are so many ways to publish now, and publish well and the right way, that even if you're just starting and getting your feet wet, so to speak, you can get your book in front of audiences.
Why did you start writing, Josh?
Why or when?
Why?
I had stories I wanted to tell. I wanted to write the book, and I honestly, I wrote, how many of us wrote, 100 books that nobody has ever seen or read? I have books in my briefcase that I wrote on lined paper by hand that no one will ever read.
Yep. I got a big plastic bin full of stuff in my
closet. I think that's true of all writers.
Yeah, like we started because it was either fun or we had to tell our story. And like you said, we've said a lot of negative things, and I almost want to reiterate, I want to be negative about this, because if you're not doing it because it's fun and enjoyable,
yes,
all you're really doing is wasting space on the Amazon platform or the Kobo platform or whatever it is. I am all for authors that are just in it for money to go away.
100%. 100%.
And it's very, on a very pragmatic note, is you can make money writing, absolutely, but it is too hard a way to make money to do it if you don't love it and really want to put some time in. If you're looking for an easy way to make money, then that's not the right thing.
There are easier ways.
Oh, hell yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the advantages of having a job that you can support yourself and writing. I've had conversations with authors that are burnt out on writing whatever series they're writing. Whether it's a 25 book sci-fi series or an 18 book lit RPG series or whatever it is, and they're like, I don't want to write this anymore but I have to, because I have to make money. And I respect that, and I respect those authors that do that work. I have come to the realization this year that I really want to try to write modern day military spy thrillers, and I've got 2.5 sci-fi books to finish up, and then I'm going to make that switch. And the only reason I can make that switch, well, A, I have an amazing wife who has an amazing job, but also B, I have my work with Athon, and it doesn't matter what I write. I can do whatever I want. I can have fun with it. I can enjoy the process and still learn to be better. And I think, as we go forward into next year with this show, we'll probably look at, the business side of things in depth. And Steve, I really want to get you on some of those shows, just so we can, keep the information legit, and that we're telling people the right thing, but also I want to get reinvigorated into having fun writing again and learning.
Let's make writing fun again.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think writing good books instead of writing the fastest book that you can write that you can make $100 on that's what I respect authors for. If you are an author that genuinely wants to improve your craft and write a very good book, the best book that you can write, by all means, let's do that, because that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in making money because everybody needs to make money, but I got into writing to write good books well. And that's what I want to focus on.
So with all the doom and gloom we've talked about, I do have a nice story that I'll be short, because we need to hear more from the intern, because we can kind of shoulder him off the screen here.
No, that's
but
fine.
I've always had, especially in my previous job, like completely random, just almost soul crushing moments of anxiety or dread that would just sweep, like everything would be going well at work. Books are selling well, family's happy, and I'd be driving around and I just feel the weight of the world crush me. And I always thought it was just part of my psychology. Maybe it's the way I was wired or how I trained myself. But since I have gone full time, so as much as I complain and talk about how you got to be careful because it is stressful, I've had the opposite thing, which I didn't know was real, where I'm driving down the road and I just have this uplifting moments of euphoria where I'm ridiculously happy for no reason.
Mhm.
And I want that for everybody, because that is, I mean, that's amazing. As an adult, you get that feeling when you're a kid. Adults don't get that sense of just like, I just got, brushed by something beautiful.
Yeah. Life
For no
is
reason.
good.
I don't know why I'm feeling so good driving. This is amazing. This is great.
Not legal in Kansas, but yeah, my car doesn't pass. Yeah.
No, I agree with you, Scott. I think that there are,
but being happy is amazing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And there's been several times over the last couple of weeks that I've gotten some really good writing days in. Yesterday I got 3,000 words. There was a day last week I got over 6,000 in a day. And man, I was pounding the keys. And after I was done, I didn't feel like I had worked at all. I felt like I had just a really.
I didn't feel like you worked at all either.
I know. That day I didn't. I didn't. I turned off all my notifications. I am not listening to Steve at all, one bit. But no, I like you said, I think all of us have wanted to become writers and write books because that's something that we absolutely love, and it's awesome, especially in this community. Like we've mentioned before, Keystroke Medium itself might not make you a successful author just from the show, but it's definitely given us the opportunity that I wouldn't have met Steve, I wouldn't have met Chuck or anybody without Keystroke. And I've kind of felt guilty over this last year, having some of these realizations. Scott and I have talked about this many times about how the opportunities we've gained from doing the show and meeting the people that we've had on the show and the listeners and viewers have really set us on our careers, and we wouldn't have been here without the show. And I kind of felt guilty this last year not doing the show, wondering how many people come and hang out with us, how many people we could have on the show, how many people interact with us that may have missed out on opportunities because we didn't have the show and they weren't connecting with people, or they weren't hearing from somebody that they enjoyed hearing from. And so that's I think is one of the biggest reasons I want to restart doing everything is because I know for a fact that our community, more than anything, is a community of opportunity. And those come and go. You can get them from many places, not just from here. But I think the people that are core here definitely have the opportunity to provide and gain those opportunities. And Rhett, no one listens to you anyway. So
for our audio listeners, it's too bad our audio listeners don't get a transcription of the
That's true.
Rhett hates when I write because that means I'm not working on Athon stuff, and he does not like when I don't work on Athon stuff.
Brett doesn't like when anyone has fun, though. So
that's true. If Rhett would use the Monday board, I wouldn't have to work as much. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, you know what, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
I believe you need to feed into the joy of writing based on your experience finishing up the Dark Trilogy.
Yes.
The much anticipated.
The much anticipated Dark Trilogy. You need me to talk about the joy of writing?
I want to hear your experience. You're coming to the end of writing this.
Yeah,
series, right?
I am. Slowly but surely, I'm getting there. Well, I mean, writing for me I'm gonna do it whether I have a chance to make any money at it or not. There are times my wife I'll get grumpy or something, and she'll like, go write a story or something, so you'll stop being an asshole. And I'm okay, I can do that. But no, I think if you're gonna do this, you have to love it. I mean, you can you know, if you want any kind of satisfaction out of it, it's got to be a labor of love. And Jack and I have been together through some tough times, including pandemics and personal stuff. And but you know, it was always there. I've got my computer set up to where when I turn it on, that's automatically opens up, and that's the first thing I see is my manuscript. You know,
I need to do that. That's
yeah. But
well, to feed into your positivity, Chuck, I remember reading the first Jack Dark book, and the first Jack, and that was what, like 8 years ago. I remember reading that,
something like that. Yeah,
20th century.
Speaking of assholes,
it's a phenomenal book, Chuck. It is a good book. The narrative is solid. The characterization is great. I gave you a couple of good criticisms, I thought, when I read it. I am looking forward to you finishing the book because I think more people need to read it because it's really good. And
it's just what you were talking about, Josh. Write the good book in your own way.
Writing the good book, and that's what I mean. It like
takes 8 years.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, it's fine.
I know it's been a while.
It's been a while. No, but Chuck, you take the time and you finish the book, man, and do it the right way and on your dime and your say so. And I don't know what I was trying to say there when I said dime. You write it on your own terms. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. And
we all have to. I mean, look at. We all have to write around our life. I mean, you know, look at the show. You got busy with your family and your kids. I got busy with my family and having to go back to work and stuff because of things. And we have to write around the real world. I say, you know what I mean?
Yep.
The life is going to happen no matter what you want. Not everything's a choice. Sometimes shit just happens and it cuts into your writing day. You know, if you're going, again, it comes back to, if you're going to do this, you've got to love doing it enough that you find a way to make it fit into the chaos that regular life is going to throw at you from time to time. You know, you've got to love it enough to make it part of your day, even when it doesn't seem like it's much of a priority. And I think that's the key to success in this. And when I say success, I don't necessarily mean making, you know, $1 million, but typing the end and being satisfied with what you've done and saying, this is the best book I can write. This is the best way I can tell this story. And then you put it in the world through whatever means you decide to, and say, now I'm going to go do this other story and do it the best way I can and fit it into the chaos and the inconsistencies of my day and my life.
Well, and there's nothing more satisfying than when you actually make a connection. I mean, the money obviously is fantastic. I love money. I'm going to be.
Yeah, money's awesome.
But
that's all right.
But when you get some of those comments that come back from your books, like I got the other day, and somebody laughed at a joke I told them, like a Reaper book like 4 years ago, and they're like, I was laughing all the way to work, and I was like, see, that's good.
Well, you know, and every once in a while, I don't know about you guys, but every once in a while I'll get an email through my website from somebody saying, hey man, love this book, would love to know about other, you know, totally unsolicited, just somebody stumbled across what you did, some stranger, and they liked it enough that they spent some time to send you an email about it. You know, that to me, I mean, yeah, like you said, I love money, but I get a much bigger thrill out of something like that than, you know, getting a nice commission check or whatever.
I also think people who love writing and stick with it long term will outlast some of the trendy, let's get rich writing my memoirs.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, Josh, can you put up Chris Wilson's post, that one from 2 p.m.? I've had a struggle since I'm IT engineer, and at this point in my old man career, I've got to the point that I hate being on the PC anymore. I want to encourage you. There's other ways to write books.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I get messages all the time. Hey, what do you use to write? What is the best tool for, what's this? And so like my answer is always anything that gets the book written.
Yeah.
Is the best tool, right? Like we've got Scrivener, we've got Dabble, we've got Word, we've got Pages, we've got Notebooks, we've got the Remarkable 2 tablet where I write by hand. Like I don't play PC games. Rhett gives me crap all the time because I play on console. And my reason is the same reason that you're putting up right now is I'm done being on my computer.
Yeah.
I've been on my computer all day. That's not my fun time. I want to go sit in the recliner and play a game. And, one of the posts I had recently that got kind of the most feedback was that the difference between people who finish writing books and don't is that people who finish writing books write even when they don't want to, even when there's an excuse. And I'm not saying that you should push aside family time or anything like that. But for me, I don't play video games anymore because I know that if I play video games, I'm not going to get that hour and a half of writing in at night that I try to do. As soon as my kids go to bed, that's my writing time because I'm doing Athon stuff the rest of the day.
Right.
So my kids are in bed. I know that my wife is doing all the things that she didn't get to do while the kids were awake. And so I sit down for an hour and a half, and I pound out words and I do whatever I have to do. And then at that point, I'm done. My night's over. I'll watch a half an hour TV show in bed and fall asleep. Is that the best way? No, that's just my way.
Right.
Well, but I think you're right. The best way is the way that gets it done, and that's gonna look different for every individual person.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to kind of caveat what I said earlier about writing the best book you can well. No matter whether it's your 14th book or your first book, the next book is always going to be better. And what I'm really saying with that is there's a lot of authors out there that are not concerned with the quality of the book. They're just concerned with the quantity of how many books they can put out there. And that goes to the more business side, the more I want to put out as much content as possible to make the best money possible. And just for point of reference, I'm finishing this book, which I originally called Second Starts. It's called the Navarus Chronicles now, but I've had to go back and re-edit and rewrite that book to finish the ending. And that was the first book I ever published on Amazon back in like 2010.
I think I read that.
You probably did.
I think I read that when we first met.
Yeah.
The Peter Pan thing.
Yeah, the Peter Pan one. And going back and rewriting and editing this book made me realize just how bad of a writer I was when I first started. And I'm still improving, but it's interesting how much better you get while you're focusing on being a better writer instead of just pumping out content and being done with it and moving on. Looking at your craft and trying to improve your craft continually will give you really good success over the long term, like Scott says. And that's something I want to focus on this year is really bettering yourself as a writer.
We started out talking about the kind of mishandled metric of writing full time is the only metric to success. And I think we all pretty much agree that's not really that meaningful of a metric, but also comparing yourself to anybody is dangerous.
Yeah.
And we talked about the different things where people like, I make this much money, but I spent at 20 books, there was a presenter who had some credibility, said that they knew people that were 7-figure authors, but after expenses, they're probably like barely a 6-figure author. And so you can make that, but my example was a little bit more direct. Like you will see people post these things like, look, I made $1 million. And I remember seeing one of those and feeling like shit. And I looked at it, but that was like over 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be careful what type of metrics people are using.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be comparing yourself anyway, because the only thing that really matters is whether it's working for you.
Right.
But it's really easy to go out there and see, I made this much money. I'm like, well, if you divide $1 million by 14 years, that's not really a living wage.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold on. Now I need to do this math.
And then take out.
I think you're wrong. Hold up.
Well,
a million
divided by 14.
Well, I mean, if you divide it by 10, that's 100,000 a year. So figure
it's $71,000 a year.
Yeah, that's like 70,000 a year.
That would have been amazing for me when I was a pastor.
Oh yeah,
$1,000 a year
back then. But the point is you're not buying no Lamborghinis with your $1 million you made.
I mean, you can make a poor decision.
That is true. You can buy a TRX.
Yeah.
That was a great decision.
Well pointed there. But that's the point, is you have to be careful who you compare yourself to, and you need to just use your own numbers and stuff.
I think the only writer you need to compare yourself to is the writer you were yesterday.
That's a great way to say.
That's deep.
Man,
unless you're the Stephen
somebody
King.
Write that down.
If you're the Stephen King of sci-fi like Josh Hayes, then
I mean, it's true. I can't argue with your logic there, my friend.
Yeah. So we need to decide where we want to go this year with this show and what type of things we want to cover.
Well, this year's over, so I think you mean next year.
Well, next year.
Next year.
I've already moved on to next year.
We're already there.
Well,
it's already 2024.
My goal year actually starts in October, so in my own defense,
I find it encouraging that we've had such a steady live viewership this episode, which is really on par with the episodes that we were doing every week. Back when we were doing them every week, and so it's nice to see that there isn't just a one viewer in there going, who are these guys, and everybody's saying, who are these guys? But I think
we really do have a community.
It's we should do one show a year.
Yeah,
and we're good.
One annual wrap up.
I think to start out, maybe next year, maybe we should start out doing like every other week, and just kind of get back into the flow of things, and that way we're not overwhelming ourselves doing this. Because I think
every other week you mean monthly.
No, every other week. What did I say?
You meant monthly, right?
I think he's just saying monthly instead of every other week.
Oh. Steve will be here monthly. We'll do this every other week.
I speak again.
And I think that'll be a good schedule to keep up. Maybe we can get some guests on, maybe not. It's kind of stressful sometimes getting guests lined up and things like that. But I would like to keep going. If all the viewers are on board, if the viewers aren't on board, I don't want to do it.
Right. Gotta have the shenanigans in the chat.
Yeah, 100%.
You can sign that will let us know if you want to be a part of it. I know it says something about AI, but just sign it and they'll let us know that you want us to do a Keystroke show.
100%, yes. I put the link it's probably way up high in the comments. I'll put it in the Keystroke group here after the show and make sure that's the AI initiative we're talking about, or the anti-AI initiative we're talking about. But it was great to be back. We'll come up with some fun things to talk about. It's not all doom and gloom next time, and but realistic, definitely realistic.
Dr. Dolls.
Oh, here we go again. They're action figures or collectibles. I actually got some new ones I might need to show off. But everybody that came out and hung out with us today, thank you guys so much for putting up with us, putting up with our hiatus, and welcoming us back with this great showing today. I'm honored and I'm grateful that you guys came to hang out with us today. Steve, thanks for sitting and chilling and spreading your wisdom around like some disease that no one wants to get. And Chuck, thanks for throwing out the idea, man. It was the intern's decision to restart and do today.
Well, we have, that's what they're, our vast of interns.
Somebody suggested promoting you to head intern. I'm not sure that we're there yet in terms of the promotion, but we're really close.
I don't want that from Chuck.
Intern
That's
level.
A good thing.
Intern level 2.
Yeah.
Some really exciting sounding administrative role.
Senior intern.
Senior intern.
Oh, that tracks.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know. It was fine. I said it. I know who I am.
Well, everybody, thank you again for hanging out with us. We will come back either next week or next year with some more Keystroke content. Thank you very much for watching the show today. As I have said many, many months ago, we'll be back next time talking about some reading and some writing, and of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. See ya.
Later, guys.